Hello and welcome to another episode of A Day in the District, Season 4. I'm your host, Chelsea Whittington. A Day in the District is a program designed to help you, the viewer, stay connected to your Gary Community School Corporation. Can you tell I'm excited? I am super excited about today's guest. She is none other than our newly appointed Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Yvonne Stokes. Welcome, Dr. Stokes.
Thank you. I am so happy to be here with you.
I'm happy to have you. I know that maybe I might have, did a little strong arm and pulling a little teeth to get you over here because you're busy and you have a great task at hand. But certainly it is my honor to be able to introduce you to our viewing community. And some have seen you at school board meetings, but I want to look at this as our official television introduction of Dr. Stokes. And with that being said, who is Dr. Yvonne Stokes? You come to us with so much experience.
Well, if we talk about who Dr. Stokes is as a personal, I am a mother. I am a daughter, a sister, a lover. I do a whole lot in my community. As I've shared before, I am the president of ANAPSE, which stands for the Indiana Alliance of Black School Educators. I'm avid in things that I do for the community, like in my church and things of that nature. I do a lot with my family and, it's interesting because, I did have a child that passed away, and in fact, today is his birthday.
Oh,
so I'm a giver, a mama,
yes.
and, I just do a lot for me. I like to swim. I like to play the keyboards. That's who I am on the personal, and I think a lot of people don't really know that.
Yeah.
But
I thank you for sharing that. And for those of us here on the team, we did get a chance during our opening ceremony to get a little bit of you singing as well. You sing as
well. I like
well.
music. I do like music.
Nice.
And I believe, I grew up in the church singing. So that's a passion of mine, and in many ways a calling, I believe. But on the professional side, I've done work always with supporting children and community in general. Some things people don't know about me is I used to be helping with mental health. So I was a case manager and helped with mental health. I think that was when the DSM-3R was out.
Yes.
So that's been some time ago. But I still utilize those skills and resources. I have a background in special education. So I've worked at the State Developmental Center helping students who had speech and augmentation needs. So there are some things that I'm speaking of that people don't know about me. They do know me as the school district leader, having been classroom assistant to teacher to coach to assistant principal to curriculum director to assistant superintendent to superintendent.
So, I love how it escalated and you hit every path for the simple fact that when you're able to coach and lead others, you can literally say, I've been there. Talk to me about your days in the classroom. What did you like about those?
I think the one thing that I liked about being in the classroom is that our students in and of themselves are they're brilliant. Yeah. And I often say if we breathe life into them and support them in their passion and their dreams, that the sky is the limit.
Yes.
They literally can do anything we empower them to do. But I think my most wonderful time with children is just listening to their aspirations about what they know and what they want to know, and then how we support that through academics and beyond.
Yes, and I can totally agree with that. Prior to your arrival, I was chatting with the young ladies who are actually operating the cameras today. They are our students talking about their goals and aspirations. And so everything comes full circle once you've been in the classroom and then moving into administration. So what did that look like for you, Doc? You made that decision to say, okay, I've made my mark here. I want to do more. I want to expand. How did that come about?
I will say probably for most leaders, or at least for those who I've spoken to, I never really made the decision to move, quote unquote, from the classroom into administration. I was tapped. Okay. I had leaders who saw leadership in me beyond just giving with 30 students per period.
Right.
They felt like I could give more to 500 or 600, which meant a building. Then there were leaders who felt like you can give more than just to a building. You can work systemically. Yes. So there were others who looked into me and saw leadership in me And I'm happy that they did, because I've always been somewhat of what I would call a servant leader, but I'm also somebody who I can pivot with whatever the needs are.
Yes, I
So
could tell.
that's how I got into administration. I was tapped to do it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to delve just a little bit deeper. Gary, Indiana, a place, no secret, that I love, 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 being a graduate from here. Excited that you're here. But knowing that we had been in 7 years, state oversight, challenges and things like that, coming on the other side of those things, what even made you explore the opportunity? Were you tapped, or was this something you said, I might want to take on this challenge and make a difference?
I will say a little bit of both.
Okay.
So I am, I'm a turnaround person, and that comes with a lot of responsibility. Turnaround can be in your personal life, with your children, with your finances, with a lot of things. But my expertise is turnaround in education, academic realms.
Yes.
So when I say a little bit of both, a search firm, they always go out and they look at the market and they look at who's available and who's willing. But I also have to do my due diligence to say, is Gary the place for me? Well, that I worked in the region of, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I worked, as the assistant superintendent in school town of Munster. So I'm very familiar with the region.
Yes.
So the region is comfortable for me. And I was born in Chicago. So, the region is comfortable, can call it home to a certain degree. But with that being said, when I researched the needs of Gary and when I researched the community, the one thing that stood out for me is there are so many wonderful citizens, wonderful staff members, wonderful students who just need more support.
Yeah.
And the mere fact that we were coming out of a takeover, it set the stage for the right leader to come in and support. I'm not coming in trying to be the boss. I am coming in as a supporter, but I do have to lead the charge.
Yes.
And one of my giftings that I believe is putting in processes and procedures. We are literally building this plane while we're flying it, from everything to policies to what the expectations are for students and for staff. But more importantly, how do we support our greater community in helping us support our children?
Yes. I'm starting to hear this buzzword around support that I really, really like. And as we wrap up this first segment, when we come back, we're going to talk more about some of the ideas and discussions we've had at certain school board meetings and with community members about supporting parents, supporting students, and community stakeholders, so we could all come together as we move the district forward. You are watching A Day in the District. It's a program designed to help you, the viewer, stay connected to your Gary Community School Corporation. Stay right there, because when we come back, we're going to find out what are the 4 E's. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When you join the Army, the first thing they teach you is how to get in line. Not exactly the same in high school. When I enrolled in Westside Leadership Academy and joined ROTC, the first thing I learned was respect. Not just for God and country, but for myself.
Gary Schools, strong, resilient, built for education.
I said I'd never join.
Thought living on a sub would be too hard.
I figured only the weatherman track storms.
I said my job wouldn't matter.
Never knew how strong I was. I never thought this would be my commute.
I figured I'd never get out of my hometown.
Or be the one who stops an attack. Joining the Navy sounds crazy. Saying never actually is.
Welcome back to A Day in the District, and I'm still your host, Chelsea Whittington, chatting with my colleague and whom I consider now a friend, Dr. Yvonne Stokes, Superintendent of the Gary Community School Corporation. So I have been working with the district for a number of years, and so these are the times that we've been pressing toward, and I am excited to find out, even though you've been in the region, been in Munster, but Gary proper. We just opened schools last Wednesday. You had a great opening, and it was very exciting to watch you interact with the children and the level of excitement of parents coming in. And I know you had been in the buildings before, but seeing them filled with children first day, what did that feel like, Doc?
You know, I think we're all educators. We're all teachers to some degree. But I tell you what, there is nothing like the feel of young children being around you, because they're forgiving and they're loving. So it was energetic. It was energizing.
Yes. I'd like to point out one of the initiative that was very unique over at Daniel Hale Williams School, where they have a new bike and roll club, and they actually bike to school with the chief of police. So that was pretty cool to see. But while I was with you, I also kind of saw you jumping in and helping too. That's just who you are, huh?
Yep, boots on the ground. I'll help out where I can. Sometimes I'm reminded, Dr. Stokes, you're the superintendent. You probably shouldn't be doing that. And I'll say, but I'm the superintendent. I can do whatever I deem appropriate.
I know, that's right. And the other part to that, Doc, though, is I feel like the staff was very receptive to see you. Are you that type to roll your sleeves up and say, I would do anything just like anybody else on the team to ensure that it gets the job done. You talk a lot about parental involvement and how critical it is to the success of a child. Further, you talk about the resources that we should seek to provide parents to get them equipped, and grandparents to help them to make sure their scholars are successful. Can you elaborate a little bit about what you see that being for the district?
Well, it's no secret that one thing I would like us to definitely see is an improvement in our literacy supports. I think that every parent, community member, grandparent, so on and so forth, pastors, churches, I think that they all have a will to help our students be able to read. The question is, do we all have the skills to do that?
Yes.
And so one of the things that I want is for us to all be strategically aligned so that all the arrows are going in the same direction. And what that looks like, sounds like, and feels like to me is that our community members and our parents are empowered to understand how do we deliver instruction to our students, especially around the areas of learning to read.
Yes.
How are we delivering those supports? And we all need to be on the same page with delivering instruction the same way.
Yes.
I recall in a different setting talking about we don't want children to learn how to, let's use math, for example. My grandma would say, go next door and borrow an egg when she was trying to teach me how to, add and subtract. She would say, go next door and borrow an egg. Well, I knew what that meant, but a child doesn't use that same vocabulary in the classroom. So I would want my grandmother, if she were alive and trying to teach me as a kid, to use the same vocabulary that the school uses. I don't need to learn 3 different ways how to do something.
They can make the connection in any setting.
So we need to all be on the same page. And I vision the school helping empower our community members and our parents with what are the keys to delivering the craft of teaching, so that when our students have their standardized assessments, they can excel there, but not just there. They can also excel in their personal lives with understanding what we're delivering.
I really like that. You had also mentioned, as a community may or may not know, we have FACE liaisons in every building, which stands for Family and Community Engagement Liaisons. And so they are specifically and strategically placed in these buildings to ensure that parents have a direct point of contact for information and resources. And now with the resources for helping with literacy, that's a great path forward. Another thing I witnessed on August 14th, the first day, I've been watching you. I don't want to sound creepy, but I was there with you. And you stopped over at Gary Middle School. You went into a classroom, I want to say it's either 6th or 7th grade, Mr. Anderson's class. And the children were very excited to see you for the simple fact that who gets the superintendent in their class on the first day of school. That's pretty cool. But you had a brief chat with them to talk about expectations for their future. And I'm really even doing this for the young ladies who are in the room today. You talk about the 4 E's. You got a couple of minutes, Doc, to elaborate on what those 4 E's are.
Okay. Well, I think some of them we traditionally know and others we don't.
Okay.
I talk about the fact that as our students progress from pre-K through 12th grade and beyond, we want our scholars to leave us and be prepared to own one of or maybe all 4 of what I call the 4 E's.
Okay.
Now, you've probably heard of 3 of these. 1, maybe not as much, so I'll save it for last. But the 4 E's, here they are. I want students to be able to graduate and if they so choose, enroll in a university or a college of their choice and be successful. Success means where they don't have to take a lot of remedial courses. If they do, fine, but we don't want them to have to take a lot of remedial courses. That costs money, right?
It does.
So I want them to enroll in a university or college of their choice and be successful. Or they may choose to go into the enlist, that's the second E, into the armed forces, and support our country. You know, we sleep under a lot of protections provided by our military. So we want to make sure that if they choose to enlist, that they go and they're doing our country a great service. The other E, which we typically know about, is employment. I want students to be able to, if they so choose, go straight into employment. And we know through our CTE offerings and support that we're preparing children for great jobs and great futures if they just choose to go on into employment. But I don't want it to just be employment. I want it to be gainful employment that supports them and their family if they choose to have one. And then that 4th E, which a lot of us probably think about, but we don't necessarily hear about, is entrepreneurship. I want students to be able to go, if they so choose, start their own buildings, businesses, be an entrepreneur. And so some students will choose to have all. They will go out, they will enlist in the armed forces, and then while they're in there, they will get money, they will come back and go to college, they'll have a job while they're going to college, and then they may start their own business.
Sounds like a plan to me. The 4 E's: enroll, enlist, employment, and entrepreneurship. You heard it right here. And again, I can't stop looking at my young ladies here. They are taking it all in, and I hope you are too. You are watching A Day in the District. It's a program designed to help you, the viewer, stay connected to your Gary Community School Corporation. But I also want to remind you that you can stay connected by following us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn, as well as our website, garyschools.org. When we come back, we are going to chat with the superintendent about hiring, what the team looks like, and what this next quarter of the school year is going to hold. Stay right there.
Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life.
It's gross. I don't really want to talk about it. She didn't want to at first, but I mean, it's no big deal. Everybody does it.
I was ready. Totally ready. Because we had been practicing this dance for weeks.
He was supposed to take this girl to this dance, but
I sprained my ankle at track practice.
I hate sharing anything personal. It's so disgusting.
For the dance, I let her wear my shoes and she hated it, but I thought she looked great in them.
he could barely even walk.
I ended up taking some pills for my pain.
Yeah, they were my mom's, but
it didn't go well.
If it's not yours.
If it's not yours.
If it's not yours.
Hey, you.
Don't take it.
Don't take it.
Don't take it.
Don't take it. You won't believe what happened next.
And we are back. Another episode of A Day in the District, and we're already in the final segment, so let me jump right back in. As we talked about leaving state oversight, Dr. Stokes, which everybody is stoked about. You see how I did that? That The school board meetings are now, they're back in effect. And while we were having community meetings prior, this feels like we're really back on track here. And having spent time at these meetings and preparing for them, there's a certain way that they're now being held. And I just want you to talk about how important it is to have that in place on the calendar for people who can interact with our 5 board members and you.
Well, as we've often shared, it is important for the board to hold their sessions of working in front of the community.
Yes.
So that they can be privy and we can be transparent about things that are going on. With that being said, it's been an absolute joy to work with the school board. They are 5 wonderful leaders who are very intelligent and very informed, and they do their due diligence behind the scenes to make sure that they are up to speed with things that are going on. But I will say that, we changed some things in the way we have our school board meetings, and we're always improving. So what you see now is not necessarily going to be the status quo.
Gotcha.
We're always trying to find ways to do better. But the board meetings have been instrumental in giving opportunity for us to have the community come in. And after every board meeting, where possible, sometimes we've got to scurry off to other meetings, but where possible, the community, they talk with the board members, they talk with me, you're there, they ask us questions. The one thing I always want to say, though, is that we won't always have an answer, nor should we at the time we're being asked something, but we do our research and we always try to, give some feedback.
Yes.
We want to move in a positive direction. We can't change anything that has happened in the past.
Right.
But what we can do is try to better communicate and better partner with our community and move forward.
Yeah.
And that's been my direction.
Yes.
I don't try to talk about what has happened that was bad or good. What I want to do is make a baseline movement forward to be better involved with our community and our students and stakeholders.
That makes perfect sense. And for those of you who don't know, the school board meetings are now held on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday of each month. The next one coming up on August 28th at 5 p.m. at the Gary Area Career Center. And if you're not able to attend in person, we broadcast live on Facebook. We are live on our radio station, WGBE 88.7 FM, and it is live streamed on our website, GarySchools.org. We've gotten fancy, Doc.
Yes,
I mean,
we
no
have.
excuse. You can go back and watch it later if you just, 5 o'clock, you may not get a chance to come by and see us. But again, that word transparency is super important. Another task you had at hand and still have at hand, Doc, is filling your leadership team, and some of those roles have been filled. So we're looking at HR, CFO. How are you feeling about just the team and how it's coming together so far? I know we still have some work to do.
Well, we still have, as you say, some work to do with some positions, but we slow roll things because we want the best people on board.
Yes.
I've often said, I'd rather hire a candidate and they be the best candidate and I only get to have them for maybe a couple years than to hire somebody who's not the right candidate and then I'm stuck with them.
Yeah, mediocre forever, right?
Yeah,
that
if you
makes
know
sense.
me, I don't accept mediocrity.
Yes, that's not a strategy.
It's not. I hire warriors and I hire people who are ready and willing to work, but more importantly, I hire people who love children, who love supporting, and who love what they do. And I've had 3 wonderful leaders that I've hired. Mrs. Dieta Wright.
Yes.
I've hired her to be my chief operations officer. I hired Mrs. Yvonne Spichovich.
Very
She tells us
good.
to call her Joe.
Joe.
But I hired Yvonne to be our director of human resources. And as you know, we just brought on Miss Linda Zaborowski to be our chief financial officer.
Those are some very key positions, Doc.
They are.
Yes. And if you're looking to see what other opportunities are available, particularly in the classroom, I'm advocating for the teachers as those hard to find. Joe taught me that. The hard to find positions in math and science.
Yeah.
We want those too. And they're all listed, our openings, GarySchools.org. Last thing I want to talk to you about is school has started, right?
Yes, it has.
And it's always a challenge. Districts across the country want to make sure kids are coming on back. Sometimes they're like holding on like, no, I don't want summer to end. And so let's talk about enrollment, getting them to make sure they're in class. And then what the first semester is going to look like in your purview for Gary Schools? But let's start with enrollment.
We'll start with enrollment and move into what I believe I want it to look like.
Okay.
So first of all, like I said, we're building the plane while we're flying it. So some of those old habits and or practices that we feel we can improve upon, we're trying to do that. One is enrollment. You've helped us with trying to spotlight the need for students to be in school. Yes. We also have the new department, the Student Services Department, and essentially what that team is doing, Ms. Dixon is leading the charge, and they're doing a great job, is we are making sure that we make phone calls to families, that we are putting boots to the ground and going out if we need to, knocking on doors. This isn't recruiting. I need to clarify. Right. This is you're missing instruction.
You're already enrolled.
Your child is already enrolled. You've already registered. We need our little darlings to be in class because they need to be learning.
I would like to be a fly on that wall, like, Mom. The truancy officer outside. I think I might need to get to school, right?
So
that's
we're really not calling them. They are looked at as truancy officers.
Yes.
But they're student supports.
Yeah.
I've tried to change that name to be more positive.
Student support.
So they are student supports, and we're trying to help understand how we can help support you to get into the schoolhouse so that you're not missing instruction.
I like it. And in all seriousness, that is definitely needed. And now we're down to the last minute, Doc. What does the first semester in your eyes? What do you want to see?
It is a lot of what I call collaborative pivoting.
Okay.
And what I mean by collaborative pivoting is we all, when you go home, you probably throw your keys on the counter and you might say, hey, I want to lose weight. But you're so in the habit of throwing the keys on the counter, putting your coat down and opening the refrigerator door. And then you catch yourself like,
I'm going to spin class.
I'm eating a cookie. So when I talk about we all have these habits, we're going to work together to collaboratively find out what works best for our scholars.
Yes.
What do we need to do different with programs? Yeah. What do we need to do different with supports and maybe even our leadership?
Yes.
And we started with the whole archetypes, understanding who we are and how we show up.
How we show up.
So it's just this time where we have to collaboratively find out what's working best for our leaders and for our students, but more importantly, make sure we're supporting our students on the path forward.
Well said. Ladies and gentlemen, our superintendent, Dr. Yvonne Stokes, we invite you to come out to the school board meetings and stay in touch with us online and even volunteer in some of our schools. More information can be found at garyschools.org. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
WSTG TV.